Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Abeer's Book Reviews, and today I'll be reviewing this book, The Technological Republic by Dr. Alex Karp and Nicholas Zamiska. Soft Power, Hard Belief, and the Future of the West. Now, this book is written by Dr. Alex Karp, who is the co-founder of Palantir. Now, it's a very controversial company. Some people say some things about it, then other people refute those claims. It's one of the most highly valuable companies of our time, publicly traded at a very insane valuation of several times the regular price to earnings ratio of such companies. But let's keep that aside. Let's talk about the book and the ideas in the book. So the book is basically a manifesto or a call to action by Dr. Karp and Nicholas Zamiska to Silicon Valley and to modern Western governments. What they say is that Silicon Valley was founded on this idea of collaborating with the U.S. government and the U.S. military and other aspects of the military to advance some of the most important agendas of the Western world, namely the freedoms of the Western world that we now take for granted. And Dr. Karp and Nicholas Zamiska argue that we have strayed very far from this ideal of what Silicon Valley was founded on, and now basically we've landed up in a place where previously some of the brightest minds in computer science, maths, physics would go to Silicon Valley and they would work with the U.S. government on these radical breakthroughs. They worked on the internet. That was a DARPA project of the U.S. military. They collaborated with NASA to produce satellites and GPS and all this great technology that came about during the sort of golden age of public-private military co-working. And now we've ended up in a place where these same intellects and people even smarter than those who came previously, they fear treading this domain of radical breakthrough ideas that are made possible through a collaboration with governments. And what the authors argue is that this has landed us in a place where we aren't really pushing out any new major scientific innovations. We, at this point, a majority of the people in Silicon Valley, their only end goal is the whims and fancies of late-stage capitalism. And Dr. Karp puts it very bluntly, it's like they're designing photo sharing algorithms and optimizing video sharing feeds to capture the maximum attention, which then marginally draws in more advertisers, and with enough scale they think they're going to make $1 billion or maybe even more than $1 billion. But the authors argue that this is not what technology is about, this is not what Silicon Valley is about, and this is not what the West is about. They say that if in this age of AI, the West wants to preserve itself and it wants to preserve its freedom, the only way to do so is to get these bright minds back in the playing arena with the government. And they give several examples of why this has failed in the recent years. You know, when Google agreed to do a project with the U.S. government, all their employees went on strike, and a bunch of other people started protesting. Same happened with Microsoft. They both had to drop their ambitions. And he says that this is because the West has landed up in a place where we perceive the government and the military very negatively. And the authors argue that this negativity is less than justified. They say it's not as bad as it looks, and that people have just gotten too intellectually soft, and that they're not willing to challenge ideas and ideologies anymore. They don't want to sort of be associated with this institution, right? The military or the government, which is notoriously very not popular among young people, especially young millennials. and they don't want to be associated with that because they think their reputation in society and among the fragile intellectual circles would diminish as a result of it. But the authors say, well, we've had enough of this, and it's time we go back to our founding ideals. We get the smartest people in the room, and we have them work on preserving the West. It's quite a nice critique of our sort of our abandonment of ambition in a sense, because working on DARPA and working on the internet and working on these big data projects with the government, that used to be ambitious, but now it's mostly about making money, and the tech circles have lost that higher purpose, that this is beyond just making money. This is about preserving my country and preserving the freedoms that I have in this country. And the authors say that it's about time we go back. And it's not only on the private sector or the tech sector's part. It's not only on Silicon Valley's part to do their bidding, but also on the government's part. And he says that because the intellectuals of Silicon Valley started straying away from government, what happened is, as a trickle-down effect, a lot of other professions or domains within the government also started leaving, and what's left in government and in the military is sort of this. Excuse the noise, but it's a bunch of bureaucrats, it's a bunch of academics, and it's a bunch of people who just want to regulate and don't want to innovate anymore. So he says that the government also, in a sense, allowed itself to be captured by these people who don't want to work on the same ambitious projects anymore. And that's only for the West. They say that this ambition and this sort of sense of self-preservation with government and private collaboration is still present in, say, China or Russia, where the tech sector is very closely aligned with the military and with the government and with these government initiatives to not only push out whatever apps they want to push out, but also advance the strategic interests of those countries. And if the West doesn't go back to the founding principles, it's going to lose. It's going to lose in the age of AI, because this is the most fundamentally transformative technology of our lifetimes. And the authors argue that some of the smartest people working on this technology are using it to build, frankly speaking, useless things. Very mundane, no broad impact having things. So they basically, it's a very, very unpopular view to have in today's day and age. But what they say is this weird combination of intellectual fragility and unwillingness to collaborate with government and straying to the most extreme ends of late stage capitalism for the smartest people in Western civilization means that we are gonna die. This cannot go on anymore. And that's the entire manifesto. It's something that a lot of people will not agree on. It's something that only at this point it's quite a big minority, but it's still like a minority within the intellectual circles and the tech circles of Silicon Valley agree on. A majority of people do not think this way, and this is a very earnest call to action, and it's at the risk of being massively disapproved and this it's gonna cater, or it's gonna garner a lot of challenge from the crowds and the public. They don't want to hear about this, the authors argue, but according to them, it is a very necessary decision to make. It's a very necessary thing to put out, and now they've put this on the Silicon Valley minds and the government minds to go back to their shared engineering collaboration to advance the world leading technologies. Because if they don't do it, then some other country will, and whichever country holds the most technological power is going to be the one under whose rule we live. And the authors say it's better to live under Western rule with our intellectual freedoms and our other freedoms in whatever capacity you can think of, than to live under a country like a Chinese rule or a Russian rule where these freedoms don't exist in their society. So that's basically the entire book. For me personally, I love it. It's a great book. One of the best books I've ever read. Certainly one of the best books this year. And I'm not going to spoil it anymore. I did a very long-winded explanation of it. And maybe I repeated myself a couple of times. But it's a very rigorous call to action. And it's a very good manifesto and a very good explanation, firstly, of how we ended up here, why it matters to reverse course, how do we do that, and what's the end goal. The book also briefly touches upon Palantir and what they do and what their ambitions are. But I think that's a very small subset and not really the main point of this book. The main point of this book, I think, is to inspire people, inspire young intellects by giving them examples of what could be possible and what was previously possible and why they must work towards it again now. Here is the book once again. The Technological Republic by Dr. Alexander Karp and Nicholas Zamiska. So that's been the review. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you hit the like button. If you're new and haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel to keep receiving more videos like this one. I've been Abeer Rao, and thanks for watching.